Anyone who's followed my work back when I wrote for GameLister.com will know how much I love handhelds. From the Game Boy Advance SP, to the PSP, to the 3DS, to the Switch, my dream has always been, and continues to be, the ability to play my home console games on the go. Whenever, wherever, and without any compromises. That dream came close to coming to fruition in almost every generation. I say close to because nearly every time one of these handheld consoles was released, a compromise would turn its ugly head. As amazing as the PSP and PS Vita were, they didn't share the same library as their home console brothers in the PS2 or PS3. And although the Switch came closest to having this dream become a reality, the AAA games that made it over to the hybrid console were oftentimes gimped ports that looked far worse when compared to their PlayStation or Xbox counterparts. So when companies like Microsoft and Nvidia and Amazon began launching their cloud gaming services back in the late 2010s, allowing players to get access to hundreds of titles at the press of a button on any of their mobile devices as long as they were connected to the internet, the 10-year-old inside me couldn't be more excited. Of course, that excitement quickly waned as I saw these services weren't exactly ready for prime time, riddled with latency issues, visual and audio hiccups, and an overall lack of stability meant that playing a game, AAA or otherwise, via the cloud wasn't a viable option. Not yet, at least. Fast forward a few years, and we're now at a place where cloud gaming is in a genuinely great place. Well, a great place for anyone like myself who is lucky enough to be centrally located and lives literally blocks away from Nvidia and Xbox server data centers and has access to gigabit internet. Nevertheless, I couldn't believe that I could play through the entirety of a game like Gears 5 on my phone through the cloud with little to no issues. That experience led me to pull the trigger on buying this. The Logitech G Cloud. The console that almost every gaming YouTuber hates for some reason? Well, in fairness, they are reasons that I can somewhat understand. The idea of having a device that has to rely on the internet and a monthly subscription service, or several, to play games isn't exactly enticing and makes my aforementioned dream of playing home console games on the go null and void. However, after having spent the holidays traveling out of town and only having the G Cloud to fulfill my gaming needs, I realized that this device is far more versatile than many give it credit for. I've owned the Logitech G Cloud for a little over a year now, and it's been my go-to gaming device throughout this time. I've played through dozens of AAA games on their highest graphical settings thanks to Nvidia GeForce Now's Ultimate tier. Settings that I couldn't dream of playing at on my Series S back there. Seriously, playing through Cyberpunk 2077, Alan Wake 2, and Black Myth Wukong on Ultra settings with path tracing set to their max were experiences that I won't soon forget. But I played all these games at home with great internet where I didn't have to worry about an unstable connection or packet losses. As such, I wasn't sure how my experience with the G Cloud would fare when taking it on the road. But I was curious to find out. The Logitech G Cloud is essentially a 7-inch Android tablet slapped into a traditional gamepad with an Xbox controller layout. As such, you can play Android games and emulators when you don't have access to the internet, which is exactly what I did when on the train heading to our destination to start our trip. Now, the G Cloud comes fitted with a mid-tier and now slightly dated Snapdragon 720G processor, so I knew I couldn't play high-end Android games or emulators. That didn't bother me as there were some great titles I was excited to try out on the Play Store that I knew weren't going to be too demanding. Games like Streets of Rage 4 and Blasphemous played great on the device. In terms of emulators, I played a ton of the classic PSP title Jeanne d'Arc, which ran flawlessly, kind of like having a super PSP. After that, I tried to push the device a little with Wind Waker running via the Dolphin emulator, which after some redditing, ran passably, albeit with some noticeable concessions. All these games looked great on the G Cloud's 1080p LCD, which had great colors and viewing angles, and enough brightness to combat the sun peering in through the window. Its ergonomic and incredibly lightweight design never left my hands feeling fatigued, and I also didn't plug the device in once during the 6-hour train ride and had plenty of juice left over once we got to our hotel. At the hotel, it was time to test out some remote play. Having become the new owner of a PlayStation 5, which at this point was sitting by its lonesome in our media cabinet at home hundreds of kilometers away, I was excited to see how well the feature worked, considering it was something I'd often do with my PS Vita and PS4 nearly a decade ago. Happy to report that the experience with the G Cloud and PS5 was absolutely flawless. I had some hope that my PS5 being hardwired to my router would give me a leg up in terms of stability, but wasn't too sure how well our quite mediocre hotel Wi-Fi would serve. Thankfully, it didn't come in the way. Playing a little bit of Astro's Playroom proved almost perfect in regards to latency. The game also looked impeccable, with hardly any noticeable artifacting or audio hiccups. Moving on, I was very curious to see if I'd be able to pull off any true cloud gaming. Though companies like Nvidia and Microsoft tout that you only require speeds of 15 to 20 megabits per second to play via their cloud services, it's been my experience that those speeds simply won't cut it. Imagine my worry, then, after conducting a speed test for our hotel's Wi-Fi and being shown the number 18.1 next to the download speed. I tried and failed a couple of times to start Black Myth Wukong via GeForce Now, getting an error message letting me know my internet sucked. But when I did manage to eventually get into the game, I was pleasantly surprised at how smooth it ran. Don't get me wrong, there was definitely some noticeable artifacting and latency issues, and just visual hiccups all around, which was a bit of a nuisance. But overall, it played fairly well, though how long it would be able to remain in the game without booting me out, I wasn't too sure. After that, I tried out some Xbox Cloud Gaming, which to my surprise ran quite well. Playing some Indiana Jones and the Great Circle proved more than playable, and considering it's a first-person game where any latency would severely impact the experience, that's high praise. I should mention, however, that Microsoft refuses to update their servers, so the visual quality of Xbox Cloud Gaming is far inferior to that of Nvidia's due to an almost laughably low bitrate. However, that does provide a more stable performance, which when traveling and having to rely on hotel Wi-Fi is a positive concession, just not one that I would want when playing at home with a stable connection. Overall, I was pleasantly surprised with the cloud gaming performance on the G Cloud while on less than stellar Wi-Fi, and further away from both Nvidia and Microsoft server centers. I definitely wouldn't be comfortable playing GeForce Now for extended periods unless your connection is at least a consistent 30 to 40 megabytes per second, but both Xbox Cloud Gaming and PlayStation Remote Play worked really well. However, to be honest, I didn't even spend much time playing via the cloud, apart from capturing footage for this video, because I was just having way too much fun playing Blasphemous and Streets of Rage 4, both of which play beautifully on the G Cloud. 2025 is going to be the year of the handhelds, with the Switch 2 having just been unveiled, a slew of PC handhelds being shown at CES, and Xbox reportedly working on a Series S-like handheld. The market's going to be full. And though I'll likely pull the trigger on the Lenovo Legion Go 2 because that thing looks like an absolute beast, I'm still going to be more than happy with the G Cloud. Until then, and now that it's proven to be a genuinely solid travel companion, I honestly might even think twice before jumping into a PC handheld. As long as you set your expectations and plan ahead, understand how cloud gaming might work for you, both at home and on the go, and don't mind delving into older emulators and indie Android games, the Logitech G Cloud is a great handheld device that has come the closest to fulfilling my dream. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to get these videos early, be sure to check out my Patreon at patreon.com/pixelswish. If you want to read the written version of these videos or news pieces on gaming and basketball, be sure to check out Pixel-Swish. I upload daily. And let me know in the comments below what you thought of the video, any feedback you might have for me, and if you're an owner of the Logitech G Cloud, what are your experiences with it? All right, that's all for me. I'll see you next time.